Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me for Screenwriting Deconstructed. This is a class that I put together about 6 months ago because it's kind of a little bit of an introductory class. If you've done a lot of screenwriting, there might be some things in here that you haven't heard. There might be some things in here that are reminders, different things like that. If you don't know who I am, I don't know how you got here, but thank you. If you do know me, you probably know me mainly as like improviser coach or acting coach, but I coach a lot of different creative skill sets, and I love coaching writers. I help writers ideate, motivate, and elevate. Basically, when I'm private coaching writers, I help people come up with ideas or give them inspiration for ideas. I help motivate them, give them different deadlines and expectations, and I give really good notes on drafts. So if you or anyone you know is looking for notes on drafts of scripts, anything like that, that's what I do. You can find me at Rich Baker Coaching on Facebook, or you can email me, therichbaker at gmail.com. So here's what we're going to cover today. Overview. By the way, if anyone's not seeing, you should all be seeing the slides that are up here right now. If anyone's not, feel free to unmute and tell me, but I think I'm doing it right. So we shall see. Basically, we're going to talk about the different types of screenwriters, and knowing your type is going to help you with whatever you're writing. The rules, just basically like what is a writer's relationship to the rules and the standards, that kind of thing. Crafting tools. So as writers, there's certainly tools out there that we can use, like our computer, Google Docs, different softwares like Fade In and whatnot like that. But there's also tools that we create for ourselves, and how do we create those? How do we use them, etc. Whose story is it? So when you're writing a screenplay, it's someone's story, whether it's a group of people or a central main character. Figuring that out is going to help. And then there's just kind of a grab bag of lessons that relate to mindset, story, and process. And then at the end, we'll do a little Q&A. So I mentioned this before, but I know some people have joined since then. If you have any questions that you came in with questions and I don't cover it, feel free to ask. Or if questions are inspired by what I cover, feel free to ask then as well. So here we go. Why are you screenwriting? So basically, what kind of screenwriter are you? I came up with a number of reasons why people write screenplays, and I think I've actually I've experimented with all these myself personally. First one, maybe you're just someone who has a story to tell. So I have a friend who wrote a screenplay. He's not a screenwriter in that he's written multiple things. He wrote one screenplay and stopped because he had this story that he was just dying to tell. If that's you, if you're just like, I want to tell this particular story, the great thing is you don't have to ever compromise, because you're not writing this for anyone else other than yourself. You've got a story that you want to put out there. By the way, if anyone's microphone's on, hearing a little clicks and whatnot, if you're making any noise there, feel free to mute yourself if you don't mind, just to keep that distraction free. All right, so if you're just the kind of person that just passionately wants to tell a story, great. Then when you're writing that story, don't worry about your audience or sets or anything like that. Just tell your story. Maybe you're a screenwriter because you're trying to make money, or you're trying to make a career out of screenwriting. Cool. One way, there's many ways to sell a screenplay out there, none of which are guaranteed by any stretch. But one thing to do is you could write it for someone. So let's say there's an actor who has clout and can get things made. Write something that you think they would love. Now, obviously, there's no guarantee that you're going to get right, but you would I've got this perfect thing. I think Jack Black would love it. Well, Jack Black has enough power in Hollywood where he can probably make things happen, or at least get the ball rolling. So great. That's one thing to do. You could also write it for a director. You could write it for a specific production company. Or in general, you could just write a screenplay that you think has mass commercial appeal, like you're writing for a particular audience. Writing for kids, if you have a good kids friendly screenplay, the odds of that getting made are higher, because parents will spend money to take their kids to the movies, or to put them in front of a television or something like that. Now, maybe you're just experimenting. Maybe you're just I want to try screenwriting, but I don't really know. I'm just going to give it an experiment. Fantastic. You get to write with reckless abandon, meaning that there's no rules for you. You're literally experimenting, so there's no failure. Just doing it is the success. A lot of people, and this happens a lot more nowadays than it used to, is you're an actor and you want to act, but no one's casting you for whatever reason because there's like a zillion of us out there. So you're writing parts for yourself. This is great. If you're writing a part for yourself, just make sure that you're writing something that not only that you want to play, but is within your range, right? If you're a singer and you're a tenor, you wouldn't write a song for yourself that's a lot of bass notes. So as an actor, what is the emotion that you want to play? What's the kind of character that you want to play, etc. Or if you're a director, you're like, I really want to direct, but I don't want to direct someone else's screenplay, and you're writing one for yourself. Dope. Factor in locations. What can you afford? If you're making this yourself, probably don't set it in something that would be really expensive unless you happen to have access to a really big budget. Once again, if you're not muted and there's any noise coming out, feel free to mute your mics just for distraction purposes, please. Thank you. Also, some people just have a compulsion. They're just like, I just feel like I have to write. You may not know why you have that compulsion. Cool, just write. And you will figure out what the reason is after you've done it, but just give in to that compulsion. And some people just do it because it's fun. It is. This really goes into the experimentation mode. So if you're just doing it for fun, again, you have no one you need to answer to. Just write whatever you want to write. If there are other reasons why you want to be a screenwriter that I didn't cover, please at some point let me know, because I'm really curious why people would write other than what I came up with. Okie dokie. One of my favorite quotes, and this is a quote you can apply to just about any discipline you've ever wanted to try. Learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. I love this quote for several reasons. It's anonymous, by the way. I didn't attribute it to anyone because according to everything I found on the internet, it's like a lot of people think that someone else said it, but really no one knows. But the idea is that, and I know when I started writing, I was very disappointed with the idea of I don't want to write in someone's formula. I want to be a rebel. And here's the thing. People like Quentin Tarantino and other writers who write things that are very non-formulaic, that's super cool. If you don't know the formula that you're breaking, it's probably going to be a little more difficult for you. Now, there are exceptions to this, of course. If you know who B.B. King is, he's one of the most famous blues musicians of all time. He did not learn to play the guitar by watching someone else and learning chords and basics and stuff like that. He learned just completely on his own. So even though he's an amazing guitarist, he can't play chords. That is pretty rare. Most great guitarists learn guitar by learning the rules, learning the theory, and then moving on. Screenwriters are the same way. Unless you're a very, very rare exception, it is going to help you quite a bit to know what the rules are out there. And the 3 books that you can see here that I put, these are, in my opinion, the 3 most ubiquitous books out there for screenwriters. Save the Cat by Blake Snyder was literally a book written after, just like this guy watched a bunch of movies and he dissected what is the formula that's helping people. One of the many takeaways I should say from that is the idea of make your character likable. So if your main character saves the life of a cat, for example, we're probably going to like him. Robert McKee's story is just a huge, thick Bible on basically everything, substance, structure, style, everything that it says in the subtitle there. It's a big one. And then Joseph Campbell, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, an old book that was based largely on mythology and has been used by hundreds, maybe thousands of screenwriters to maybe millions, I don't know. But a lot of people reference that. These are not books that I'm necessarily saying you have to read, although if you want to read them, that's awesome. But they are they're in the zeitgeist for writers of these are the kinds of books that a lot of people read, help them get the idea of structure, of story, help them learn the rules. Again, you don't have to follow the rules your whole career, but learning them is going to help you out a lot. All right. We're going to talk about crafting your own tools. Now, there's about 1 million different tools that you can make for yourself as a writer, but I'm going to focus on 3: log lines, outlines, and summaries. So these things are huge. They really help me out a lot, and they're pretty standard across the industry as far as needing them to help sell your screenplay. So we're going to talk, I'm going to delve into log lines quite a bit. What is a log line? Basically, it's one sentence. It's literally limiting to one sentence that tells you the who and the what. And it sounds like it's two things, but it's a little deceptive because the what is really two things in of itself. It's the goal and the obstacle. So who's the story about? What are they trying to achieve? And what's stopping them is basically what a logline is. Now, once you've written a screenplay or a pilot or whatever it is you've written, any big work that you're trying to sell, a logline is going to be necessary for your marketing, right? You're very rarely going to get someone, especially someone that you don't know, like an agent or a manager, to read your screenplay without first reading the logline. The logline is the thing that tells them the general basics of what's going on, and if they like the logline, they might read the summary, right? And then they go on from there. So loglines are huge, but I'm more focused on what loglines are right now as to help the writer. They're a tool that helps you. So essentially, they're a test. I see them as a test, which means that you write your logline, and then you have it there to always refer back to. Whenever you're writing your screenplay, if you start to write on a tangent away from the story, which writers do all the time, I know I do all the time, log lines are a thing that help you test. Is the story that I'm writing right now, does it fit my log line? And because they're both very malleable, the log lines may change. You may go, you know what, I like the story I'm writing, I want to change my log line. Fine. Or, you know what, I'm happy with this log line and the story that I've started to write doesn't really fit it. I'm gonna retool it from there. Log lines really help me to stay on track. I was thinking about, if you saw Game of Thrones, and there's no spoilers in this or anything. I'm going to reference a lot of movies and TV shows. I'm not going to spoil any endings or anything. But in Game of Thrones, one of the complaints they got before their last season was in season 6. There was an episode where one of the characters we've been following basically goes into like a new town with a whole bunch of new characters that doesn't have hardly anything to do with the main storyline. And then the next episode, he walks away, and then we never see those characters again. And a lot of complaints about fans, like, we were dying for the story, but this episode didn't really give us much, if anything, of the story that we were going off of. Now, this was in season 6 of the most popular television show in the world at the time, so they could kind of get away with it. But as writers, unless you're famous and people are just going to follow you wherever, you want to keep your story on pace to what it is, and those log lines really help. So here's some examples of log lines, and some of them can be pretty wordy, like this one. One of my favorite shows of all time, Veronica Mars. Her log line: after her best friend is murdered and her father is removed as county sheriff, Veronica Mars dedicates her life to cracking the toughest mysteries in the affluent town of Neptune, right? So we get the setting there. Where is she? She's in Neptune. It's an affluent town, right? Who is it? It's Veronica Mars, is, the titular character, obviously. And what is it she's trying to do? She's trying to crack the mystery. She's a detective. So if you don't know anything about Veronica Mars, you now know she's a detective in a town called Neptune, and some things have already happened to her. Her best friend was murdered, and her dad was removed as sheriff. So she's got some obstacles, she's got a goal, and has a setting in there. Now, if you're a fan of Veronica Mars, you might think, oh, there's so much more to it than that. And that's absolutely true. Log lines are designed to be minimalist intentionally. So you're not going to get the whole story. That's not the point. You just get enough to tell you the general gist. There's another show that I love. She-Ra, Princess of Power, leads a rebellion to free her land of Etheria from the monstrous invaders, the Horde, right? So even if you didn't see the image and you'd never heard of She-Ra before, you've already got an idea. Okay, we're on a different planet called Etheria. There's a Princess of Power. We're definitely dealing in fantasy realm, that kind of thing. And there's, war and battle, that kind of stuff. So you're getting the idea of what this show is based on, the logline. Breaking Bad, high school Kim. Here's the first two had the titular characters in the name, so She-Ra and Veronica Mars were actually in the logline itself. Here's one that if you didn't know anything about Breaking Bad, you didn't know Walter White or any of the names. A high school chemistry teacher, diagnosed with inoperable lung cancer, turns to manufacturing and selling methamphetamine in order to secure his family's future, right? If you knew nothing about that log line in of itself would make me, you hand me the pilot script for Breaking Bad. I've never heard of it before. It's never been made. And I just read that log line and I'm like, Well, that's interesting, right? Never heard that before. Boom, I've got, like, I don't know everything, but I know enough to get me interested to read more. And last one, I put this one because it is so short, and I love how short it is, and it tells you everything. A housewife in the 1960s decides to become a stand-up comic. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And one thing I love about this one is because the story is so high concept, it doesn't need to tell you much, right? It's set in the 60s, so you know it's a period piece. She's a woman in the 1960s, which, you know, if you know anything about history, that wasn't an easy time for women to do anything, let alone to do stand-up comedy. And I love that it's this housewife because you already know that it's not like she's a career woman who decides to change her careers. She needs to break the mold. And I love this image that they have the promo image, Amazon Prime, that's on the slide here. You know, everyone's wearing dark and gray and looking forward, and she's wearing red and looking backwards, right? She is going to be different. She's going to break the mold. She's going to do something that is basically unprecedented and crazy brave. And you get all that in a very short log line that if you count the A's, N's, and these, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 words in the log line. I'm not saying that your log line's goal is to be short, but if you can get a whole log line in just, 11 words like this, why not do it? All right. So as I said, log lines, they're really there to help you out. And for me, honestly, they're the toughest part. Some other things to worry about: outlines, beat sheets, and summaries. So if you don't know the famous story in Hollywood of Sylvester Stallone, basically it goes like this. He claims, and I have no reason to doubt him, but there's no evidence, but he claims that he wrote the entire script for Rocky in a weekend without any preparation, that he literally, and this is in the 70s, this was on a typewriter, we didn't even have a word processor. So, he's, no outline, no log line, no nothing, just hammered out a script from his head to the page in 2 days. I don't know if that's true. I'm just going to believe it's true because, Stallone seems like an honest feller. But what I will say is if it is true, it's extremely rare, and it should not be your goal unless you really think that you're some outlier, that you're 1 in a million or 1 in a billion. Outlines, beat sheets, summaries, these things that you write before you write your screenplay are going to be super, super helpful. Outline and beat sheet. Now, depending on, what part of the industry you're in and, and who you're talking to, as far as I understand, these terms are basically similar. Right? An outline and a beat sheet are just two different ways of saying the same thing. They are one sheet of paper, one document, one PDF, whatever, that in bullet point form or in some kind of outline form tells you the beats of what's happening in your screenplay. Cool. And as far as format on these, it's really whatever's aesthetic to you. I love the outlines where, there's like indentions, like a main thing, and then you indent a tab over, and then you say like something else on that. Some people just like straight bullet points. This is one of those outlines, and beat sheets are rarely, as far as I understand, very rarely used. I've never heard of it. I've never been asked to submit an outline. So these things are primarily your thing as a writer. Why are outlines helpful? Because they're going to tell you there's something that you can manipulate. In one page, you can look at the whole story and you can go, okay, I can move this around or I can take this away. It's harder to do that when the whole screenplay is written because the screenplay or pilot or whatever you're writing is so huge, right? And an example of a beat, right? You're writing one beat. So the opening scene to Jaws. The beat for that is a shark attacks a lone swimmer at night. That is the first scene of Jaws. And of course, there's more to it than that when you watch the movie, when you read the screenplay. But as far as an outline is concerned, that's what you need to know happens in that first scene. It's often about what happens, less about what's said or anything like that. It's more about like, what is the main thing that's happening in this scene? Summaries, now they are used in the industry a lot. So logline, summary, screenplay. If they like your logline, they might read the summary. If they like the summary, they might read the screenplay. And just like an outline or a beat sheet, a summary is a one-page thing. You just want to do it in one page, and it's written in prose form, right? So it'd be like, writing a novel in that style, except, it's one page, tells the whole story. I don't love summaries, but I do them anyway because they're a good challenge for you as a writer to, can you sum up your story in one page in prose form? All right. Whose story are you writing? Now, again, I'm going back and forth between TV and movies because this is very general, but all this stuff applies. So these are all TV examples. If you know the show Work in Progress, it just came out a few months ago on Showtime. The main character, Abby, is literally in every single scene. There's not a scene about any characters other than her or interacting with her. So, and that's not a good or a bad thing of itself. It's just something to know, which means that if you watch that show, you better like the main character's story or else you're not going to like the show, right? On the flip side of that, if you like the main character's story, you're going to love every bit of this show because she's literally in every scene, right? So it's clearly her story. Where then you get a show like Silicon Valley, and it is very much an ensemble cast. So you get the five guys here in the promo, and they're the main ones, but they're not the only characters that have their own storylines. There's plenty of others. If you're familiar with the story, just taking the first season, there's a guy named Gavin Belson, who's kind of the bad guy. He gets his own scenes. There's a guy named Peter Gregory, who's kind of like the mentor savior figure. He gets his own scenes. There's a character named Monica. She gets her own scenes. Big Head, a guy named Yang. All these people have their own individual storylines. They often interact with the main characters, but they don't have to, right? So if you're writing for Silicon Valley or a show like that, it's not one person's story. There might be a main story, but you need a lot of little intersecting storylines. Whereas in Work in Progress, you're not going to have a bunch of intersecting storylines. You're going to have one story that carries it all. And then, of course, good old Game of Thrones has every storyline possible. I'm assuming it has the most characters of any TV show of all time. I tried to look it up. I couldn't figure it out. But it certainly has more than any I've ever heard of. And, like, that's part of the appeal, right? You're not just writing the story of Ned Stark or the Lannister. You're writing this story based on the world that's got just, like, tons of intersecting storylines and characters and whatnot. So if you think of every page of your screenplay as real estate, you've got precious real estate to go. You know, if you're writing a 30-minute pilot, you got 30 pages. If you're writing a 90-page screenplay, that's what you got. And that may seem like a lot, but any page or multiple pages or part of a page that's devoted to something that's not the story or stories you're trying to tell, you probably gonna want to get rid of that. So whose story are you trying to tell? And there's no wrong answer. You just need to know as the writer to clarify it. Okay. Your audience, us, we all watch TV, we all watch movies, we watch sketch comedy, we watch things that we're trying to write. Why do we watch things? And this is important because what you're writing, if someone's going to want to watch it, or else you're just writing it for yourself. And if you are, that's fine, but this wouldn't apply to you. But for the rest of us, we're trying to get people to watch this. We're trying to get people compelled into it. So why do people watch things? You either want to alter or enhance your mood. That's one reason. There's the promise of the familiar, the promise of a surprise. There's an intrigue or mystery, or there's a hero to cheer for. So let's break those down. Mood altering or enhancement. So let's say that I'm in a crap mood. I'm feeling sad, whatever, and I want to feel happy and laugh. Right? For me, Superbad makes me laugh every time. It's just one of those movies that hits me in the tickle spot, right? For whatever reason. So I watch that movie oftentimes to change my mood to laughter. Let's say you're in a good mood that you like and you just want to enhance it. So you're cuddled up on the couch with your significant other, you're feeling all in love, and you put on a movie like When Harry Met Sally, which is a romantic comedy that by the end you're just going to feel a little more, oh, I love you, you know, that kind of thing, right? So that enhances the mood that you're already in. You know, and these are just two examples for me that work for me, but everyone's got their own different versions of what enhances or alters their mood. You might be writing something specifically that would help you in a situation or would help an audience enhance or alter what they're feeling. A promise of the familiar. So I watched Hobbs and Shaw a few months ago, and I don't know if you're into action movies, but this is a perfect action movie. It's exactly what I wanted. I wanted, you know, explosions and heroes that could take on 20, you know, unnamed assailants and beat the hell out of them, and you know, big fight scenes, big explosions, big car chases. That's what I wanted, and that's what they gave me. And the reason why I'm disappointed in action movies sometimes is because I go to action movies for the familiar, and sometimes they'll try something crazy, weird, new, and it doesn't work for me. And I'm like, it's not what I wanted. I just wanted more of the thing that I've seen before. And a lot of people, that's why they watch movies or TV shows. If you haven't seen the Netflix show Dracula that came out, I want to say in January, it's an awesome show made by the same people who made Sherlock at the BBC. But like, I knew going in, there probably would be some surprises, and there definitely were. But I knew that I was watching a horror show. You know, there's gonna be blood, there's gonna be lust, there's gonna be, you know, lying and murder, all that stuff. And I knew that going in, and that's what I wanted. And the first episode did not disappoint. It was the Dracula that I love, but just like a slick, cool new version of it. It was the promise of the familiar. Sometimes you want the promise of a surprise. So I remember, I'm old enough I saw The Matrix in the theater, and I knew going in that was gonna be unlike anything I'd ever seen before, and it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. And I'm not just talking about the special effects, although those were awesome, but the story itself was so different. We'd never had a dystopian, big budget film that really went into this idea of everything in the world is, you know, some kind of simulation or something. It was a surprise. It was different. And even though I'm not old enough to have seen it in the theaters, I remember my brother telling me when he was a kid in 1977 going to see Star Wars, and like he knew without having seen the movie, just seeing the trailer, just hearing about it, that he was about to see something that was totally different than any sci-fi or anything he'd ever seen before. And that's why a lot of people churned out and watched it and whatnot. So these, I don't think they come along as often, but if you can write a screenplay that's really going to surprise people in a way that you think is good, that's another reason people might go and watch a movie or TV show. Mystery and intrigue. Giving me a question, and then taking me on a journey to where you'll eventually answer this question. So the TV show Barry, an HBO show, the whole premise is that a career hitman, an assassin, decides to give up that life and become a Hollywood actor. Knowing nothing more than that, I know that I'm like, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff here. How are they going to pull that off? What's going to happen? I've got all these questions just from hearing that log line that now I wanted. Even the show's amazing. I love it. But before I even watched the show, I was just like, it was a mystery to me. How are they going to do this? A movie, Girl on the Train, just that movie is just, if you haven't seen it, it's just filled with, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And anytime your audience is asking what's going to happen next, and they care about what's going to happen next, they want to watch. And that's really great. That's especially true for TV shows. I mean, think about back in the 80s, there was a show called Dallas, which was a pretty popular show, but they had an episode, a cliffhanger ending, season ending episode, where it was Who Shot JR? And that was at the time, one of the most watched television events in history, because you had a question in people's mind and they were just dying to know the answer. This is the reason why we read articles that have clickbait headlines, because it'll give us a headline and we're like, wait, what's happening? We want to read more. That's the human animal. We want to solve mysteries. So if you give us one that we want to solve, we'll watch whatever, we'll read whatever you want to give us. Lastly, this reason why we watch movies and TV, this for me is the most important. Give me someone to cheer for. Give me a character or characters that I love, that I want to succeed. So if you haven't seen Glow, for me, every character in that show I like. There's not a single character that I'm like, don't care for them. Like every one of the main characters, obviously. I want to see them succeed. I want to see this little ragtag group of non-wrestling women, learn wrestling and then, have a successful show and be actors and do all this thing, get their friendships right, their relationships right. I want to see them succeed because I like them. I really, really like them. One of my favorite movies of all time, Zootopia. The main character, Judy Hopps, is a bunny. There's never been a bunny cop in the world of Zootopia, and she wants it more than anything. And so from like the first scene, I am cheering for her. I love this character. You give me a character, and by me, I mean a general audience that we love, we're going to watch it all day long. Okay, and so this is just kind of a grab bag of different lessons that have helped me as a screenwriter that I just wanted to share. Let's talk about mindset. Perfection is unattainable, and this is just for artists in general. Your screenplay will never be perfect. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist, so don't worry about it. Let it be flawed. That's not to say that you shouldn't fix things that are like overt, crazy flaws or whatever, but like at the end of the day, it's never going to be exactly satisfying. That we're artists. We're asymptotic. There's never a goal. Like, it's just always getting better. So just let it. Don't worry about perfection. Know that you'll get better over time. You will get better over time. So if you write your first screenplay and you're good with it, know that in 2 years you're probably going to look back and go, oh, I bet I could have done this or that. And those kinds of things are awesome. They're part of the journey. So you just know that whatever you write now probably will not look as good to you later, and that's fun. Also, this is huge. This is super, super huge. No one will ever see your first draft but you. Now, if you're hiring a coach or you've got a writing partner, those are the exceptions. But like, as far as readers, agents, managers, anything like that, no one should ever read your first draft. That is wholly for you. That is a sacred place, that first draft, which means you can, to my next point, dare to fail. You can write whatever you want. You can name everyone in your first draft Bob. You can take them to crazy places. You can do whatever you want, because in that first draft, you can change anything after it's done. So let yourself go nuts. Throw as many ideas out there, as possible. Dare to fail. And then when you write your second draft, you can take a more conscious look at, you know what, it was a fun idea to write, but it's just not going to work. Fine. But in that first draft, don't restrict your freedom, because that freedom is going to allow you to throw things on that page that some of them probably will work, and it's going to help your process. So don't worry about having anyone read that first draft. Just go nuts with it. As far as the process goes, a couple things to help you out here. One, as a writer, ideas, they tend to hit us when at other times than when we're at our computer writing, right? We're at a restaurant. Well, not now because we're all quarantined, but wherever you are, whatever you're doing, an idea may hit you. So have a way to record those. I'm old school. I use pen and paper, which is terrible because I am just flooded in unorganized paper, but it works for me, right? A lot of people use a notes app on their phone, something like that. Have a way to record these ideas and then be able to retrieve them easily. When you're writing, it takes time, like everything else we do. So you're going to have to sacrifice some things. You're going to have to put it on the calendar. I'm going to write for an hour tomorrow, or I'm going to have so many, pages written by the end of the week, whatever. Sometimes you're going to have to skip things. And again, we're living in a COVID-19 world right now, so it's probably pretty easy to skip events since you're supposed to stay at home. But we're still busy. You've devoted this time to being in this class, which is awesome, which means you had to sacrifice anything else you could have done during this hour, right? So just know that writers got to write, and writing takes time, so you're going to have to make sacrifices. And then this one is huge. It's helped me finish so many projects that felt insurmountable at the time, which is small moves add up. There are literally days when I'm writing where I just don't feel like writing. I will force myself to do the smallest of things. And when I say small things, I mean I can get really small. Creating a folder, a file folder in my computer or on my Google Drive, and label it screenplay outline to be written later or something like that. And creating that folder, and then I'm done for the day. I didn't feel like it, so I made that one thing. Making any little bit of progress, even the tiniest amount, is still better than doing nothing. So if you're just not feeling it, and sometimes you're not going to feel it, and that's super okay, give yourself the gift of one tiny thing to do, because they will add up over time. And lastly, things that'll help you out when you're telling a story. You're a screenwriter. I love writing books. I've written one and I've started a bunch, and they're great. But screenwriting is not a book. It's a visual medium. Even though people will read your screenplay, the ultimate goal of your screenplay is to get made into a movie. So when I'm reading it, and people who read screenplays are tuned to this idea of what's happening visually that people will see on the screen. Anytime that you can have a character do something rather than say something to convey the same point, it's almost always going to be more beneficial to you. Right? And speaking of that, the characters do need to do things. And by that, I mean they need to make things happen, or at least try to make things happen. One pitfall that a lot of screen writers fall into, that I've certainly fallen into a bunch of times, is things happen to the characters, right? And certainly things are going to happen to the characters, but they also need to do things as well. So if you're rooting for your main hero, they need to make things happen. They need to, have an internal change. They need to do things physically and out in the world and that kind of thing in order to accomplish their goals, or else it's not going to feel as satisfying. There's an old term from the Greek plays from back in the day called Deus Ex Machina, which just means God of the machine, because often those plays would end literally with like a chariot and a god at the end, and the god just takes care of everything, all the problems. The god just whoop, magic, and it's done. Nowadays, that rarely is satisfying. We need to see the characters do things, not some magic that makes it okay. And the last thing, you want to aim for the intersection of clarity and brevity. So if I'm reading your screenplay and I'm not clear on, wait, who's this character? Wait, what did they do? What's happening? If I'm asking those questions, I'm probably not going to finish your screenplay if I'm like, producer or agent or manager or something like that. That said, you can't take all the words that you want to clarify, because if there's too many words, if it's too big, too wordy, I'm just not going to have the time. I'm not going to have the attention span. I'm going to get bored. Because most of us, that's what we do. We don't have attention spans anymore. So your aim is, how can I be as brief as possible while still being as clear as possible? And what's that intersection look like? All right. I can't believe I actually got through this in the time that I said I would. So I am going to stop sharing my screen for a little bit and open it up to questions. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute your mic, and let's get to some questions.
I got a question.
Yes. Let's go ahead and say your name, please.
Raja. Raja has.
Oh, hey, Raja. Hey, there you are, bud. Yeah, I see you now. Hit me up with your question.
So going back to the log line thing, right?
Yep.
So I was listening to the She-Ra one, and I'm like, oh man, that sounds super cool. But like by 2020 standards, it's not interesting at all. And I guess, if you have to put together a log line, but let's say your premise isn't as high concept as Maisel, how important is it that your log line be really interesting when the concept isn't as high?
So it's not always about interesting. So you got to think from the point of view of a producer. If I'm looking to make movies and you send me a log line and a summary for your script, I read that log line. If I think that it would be a good fit for an actor that I work with or a director I work with, or if I think that it would make money, or I think it would, wouldn't cost that much to make, things like that.
Gotcha. Sure.
Those are going to factor in. And just FYI, the She-Ra one was not the She-Ra from the 80s. That's actually the She-Ra that came out like 3 years ago.
Wait, really?
Yeah. That's on Netflix. Yeah. So that's, you say, oh, that's not interesting by 2020. That's the log line. I think it debuted in 2017 or 2018. So that's pretty new.
Fair enough.
But you also got to think that is a show, and even though I watch it as a 38-year-old man, because I'm, me, it's also a show that's marketed towards kids.
Sure.
Right. So that log line is going to read a little differently than if you're writing something that's made, like Girl on the Train, that's geared toward adults.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks.
Excellent question, Raja. Other questions? Max, what's up, buddy?
Hey. So I first want to say I appreciate you pointing out Hero with a Thousand Faces, and I've read it a couple times. I wanted to get your take on how like biblical people should follow that hero's journey arc. Do you think it needs to be modified any for the contemporary age?
I'll tell you this. So you've got the hero's journey, A Hero in a Thousand Faces is a book that, among other things, talks about this hero's journey. And if you don't want to read the book, there's plenty of like circular outlines and stuff like that online that you can find that'll tell you the hero's journey. And it's kind of a map of how you can take your story, your character. It's not the only one out there. Save the Cat has its own it's a different version of their outline, right? At the end of the day, no movie or TV show exactly maps onto those things, right? Some of them have like a map onto it in certain points and vary away from it in others. What I would say is, if you've read the book twice, you know the hero's journey. Now take that, put that in the back of your mind, let that simmer into your instincts, and then write your story. And then compare, when you're done writing your story, go, okay, how does this differ? How is this the same for this? And ultimately, it's up to you as the writer. Is the variation on this theme? Do I think that it's working? Am I happy with it? Or is it not working? Maybe I should stick back to the formula that I was going off of. Right? So I wouldn't worry about sticking to the formula wholeheartedly unless you're just training yourself how to be a screenwriter, and then you'd want to like just learn that structure. But when you're writing your story, like, hey, I want to sell this thing, use it when it helps. Any tool that any screenwriting instructor or coach gives you is there to help you. And if you feel like it's getting in your way, get rid of it. You don't need it.
Nice. I appreciate your insight. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Max. Thanks so much. Susan, Ruth.
Hi.
What's up?
Great. Thank you for all this great information.
Oh, my pleasure.
You talked about visual medium, and I'm wondering how much, are you a fan of doing decks at the same time so that you have that sort of visual?
Oh, like pitch decks?
Yeah. Do you think that's important? Are they worth?
Yeah, it's kind of up to you. So if you don't know, just for everyone, a pitch deck is basically like a series of pages that I've seen pitch decks as few as 3 pages, and I've seen pitch decks as large as like 20. So there's no specific format as for what a pitch deck is, but it's essentially you hand it to someone who can thumb through it and get a gist of what your screenplay is. Often in a pitch deck, you will put actors in it that you don't even know. Like you might go, this role would be kind of like a role for The Rock or a role for Meg Ryan or whatever, and things like that. I'll just tell you that I've put them together for projects to sell them, but I've never put them together to help me write a project. I've never even thought about it, honestly. I don't know that it would help me, but if you think it would help you, go for it, right? It's another tool that you can craft yourself. So just like a log line, a summary, or a beat sheet, they're there for your sake. So you'll need a log line and a summary, and you'll probably need a pitch deck once you're ready to sell it. But in your process, sometimes things just get in your way, right? And for you individually as a writer, if this is just assignment that is busy work that's not going to help you, don't use it, right? But why not try? I mean, experiment. Try to put a pitch deck together while you're writing your story and see if that helps. And if it does, great. Then you've just discovered a tool that's going to help you that not necessarily everyone knows about or uses. Love it.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes, Jeremy.
Jeremy, have you found that your improv training has gotten in the way of your screenplay writing or aided it?
It's a good question. So I think everyone here knows me, but if you don't, I've been improviser for 21 years and a teacher for 16. So I've done a lot of improv, and improv does both. Jeremy, it helps and hurts. And here's how it hurts. It hurts because improv, at least the way that most people practice it, is very much about this moment, this scene, and it's not necessarily about what's going to happen or what did happen, right? Whereas in a screenplay or a story, you've got to set up things that will pay off later, so you have to be dealing with the whole thing, intersecting and whatnot. So if you're writing a scene like an improviser and you're just focusing on the scene, it may not speak to the whole context of what it is that you're putting together. That said, improv is very helpful when it comes to ideation and character, because as an improviser, I play a different character every time I'm on stage. So when I'm writing, I just embody that character. What would they say in this moment, or what would they do? And also an ideation. And my brain is an ideation machine. Like if you've done improv long enough, or if you're just naturally gifted, like I don't know what writer's block is. I may not write good stuff all the time, but I always have something I can write, because as an improviser, you just train your brain to just you throw inspiration at it. Give me a word, boom, I'm doing an improv scene. So the same thing as a writer. If I'm stuck, I just give myself anything, and I'm inspired to write something. Sometimes it's crap, but that's okay. Writing crap is part of the process that you need. So it helps and hurts. And knowing that is good overall. Cool. Appreciate it, Jeremy. Other questions?
I have a question. Sorry, I'm not putting the video because it's lagging, but
no worries.
So, for example, in Game of Thrones, right?
Yep.
You have various storylines, but you still kind of have a main character that you're rooting for, right? Like if you have these storylines, they kind of have to go against each other.
Yeah, I mean, they need to intersect and they need to have conflict, yeah.
And you have to have a main, like you have to have the good guys and the bad guys and decide who you want your audience to root for.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some people out there that are rooting for the Lannisters in that series, but most people are rooting for the Starks, right? And there's a great lesson to learn from that. Why do we care about the Starks? Because they take responsibility for their actions, because they really connect, they really listen, they do things that humans that we like and that hopefully and that we are do, right? Whereas the Lannisters, they're about power and keeping that power, and they don't care who they hurt in often situations, so it's easy to root against them. That said, Game of Thrones is one of the few examples out there where I would say there is no real main character, because in the first season, you're really rooting for Ned Stark, and then at some point you're rooting for Jon Snow, at some point you're rooting for Daenerys, and then and it changes. Sometimes the Hound was a bad guy in the first season, but in later seasons you're cheering for him. So when you have a really long form narrative like Game of Thrones, where you get 7 seasons, things can change. So who you're rooting for in the first season may be different as it goes. And then go ahead.
Sorry, even like if you look at Friends, the TV show,
yep,
you kind of have that too, like in a different way, where people you like at first, you don't like them afterwards, or not you don't, but like you root for a certain person at a certain time.
Yeah.
That's more for like long form TV shows than a movie, though, right?
Typically, yeah. I mean, sometimes in a movie you might be able to switch in the midst, but I'd say in a movie you really want to keep it simple, especially if you're new to screenwriting, or if you haven't done a ton of it yet. Like, keep it simple, and then if you want to do the Quentin Tarantino thing and do like a Pulp Fiction and all these crazy, weird intersecting storylines and stuff, go for it. But I would learn how to just give me one storyline before you give me a bunch, typically speaking. Susan.
I would say also is that TV characters, they don't learn things. They don't grow. Ross and Rachel were still Ross and Rachel 12 years later. Whereas in a movie, I feel like the characters do have to have that hero's journey. That at least your protagonist has to have that arc. Something you said in this I really liked was keep repeating your log line to yourself as you go. I think that's such a great, for me, I was like, oh, that's a great idea, because if I'm page 40 or page 80, if that log line is suddenly like, huh, then something is amiss. I love that.
And I just wanted you to be careful with the wording, because you said in TV the characters can't learn lessons, and that depends on the kind of TV you're writing, right? Friends is, while there were long storylines, it was mainly like every episode was a standalone, right? Whereas in Breaking Bad, I mean, the character goes through tons of changes, right? And not just the main character, but all the characters go through changes, or lots of them.
Sitcom, sorry,
yeah. Like in that old school style, like multicam sitcom, every episode is just self-contained. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I got time for about one more question if we have one. If not, we'll move on. Oh, David, what's up, David?
Hey, so my question is about the log line and like how much you can reveal or be vague with what's in your story. So like if you have like a big twist in your story that's like super huge and changes the entire tone of the film and everything else.
Yeah, like a Usual Suspects kind of thing.
Yeah. Where like, but you don't want to like, reveal that too much in the, like you want to be a surprise as part of the story. Like how do you put that in the log line, or do you not try to do that and try to make it more interesting in that way?
So what I would say, and I don't know them offhand, but what I would say is look up things that are similar to what you're talking about. So like look up like M. Night Shyamalan movies or Usual Suspects or anything that has that big reveal and see what their log lines are. My guess is that it would not spoil the ending in the log line itself. I very much doubt that it would, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, but any time you have any question like that, the great thing is you can go to IMDb and look up something that's kind of in the vein of what you're writing, and then just look at the log line. It's the first thing that's underneath. Now, a log line is different from a what's the thing on movie posters? I can't remember the name of it, but it's a different kind of line. Tagline. Thank you, John. Yeah. the tagline is for advertising, right? So you don't have to worry about that as a writer. That's for, you sell your screenplay and someone at Universal or wherever you sell it to, they'll figure out the tagline. The log line is, that's your job as a writer. And you're not going to reveal everything in it. You're just revealing enough to make someone interested to read more.
Okay.
Excellent.
Cool.
I love all this. I just want to wrap up real quick with just a couple of things. Thank you again for everything, for being here and taking your time with all this. So just got to advertise myself since that's what I'm doing, trying to make a living. I get that hardly anyone has any money with all this, but if you are the kind of person that's like, oh, I'm doing okay right now, and I want to work with a coach, I'm giving quarantine prices, so I dropped all my prices for everyone. If you want a private coaching session for half hour, it's $30, an hour, it's $60, or you can buy a block of 4 1 hours for $200. And also do feedback and notes. So depending on how long the thing is that you're writing, if you write like a 5 to 10 page sketch, $15, I'll give you all the notes in the world. Same with if you've got like a short screenplay or a pilot, 16 to 40 pages, maybe a movie that's not quite super long, or a full-on movie. I will read it. I will note it to death. A lot of people out there, if you look at what's going on, they're like, I'll give you 2 pages of notes. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I can only give all the notes that I have or none. So I just give a flat rate for how many pages you have, and then I'm going to go into thoughtful, thorough detail on that. So that's one thing that I can do. And last, just thanks so much for doing this. This is hopefully the first of many free classes I'm going to teach on a wide variety of things from improv, screenwriting, acting, stand-up, storytelling, etc. And I'm going to be doing more things on screenwriting. You can follow me at Rich Baker Coaching on Facebook. I'm going to put out clips from this class and different things like that that are going to help. And of course, feel free to reach out to me, therichbaker at gmail.com, or if you know me, through another email or contact, feel free to contact me any way you want to. Happy to answer questions. And, I just want, when we all have this time where we're stuck at home, let's get some writing done, right? Thank you again all for being here. Really appreciate it. And that's it. Thanks so much. I'm going to end this now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.